Good day everyone. My group consisting of Yazan, Theo, me, Jenglong, Victor and Yufong will be discussing the negative externalities caused by consuming cigarettes. And to start off, Yazan will be our first speaker.
So externalities happen when one person impacts others who are not involved in the action. And smoking cigarettes is a really good example. So what is smoking? Smoking is the act of inhaling and exhaling fumes of burning materials, most commonly tobacco. So why should we stop smoking? Because smoking creates negative externalities. It increases public healthcare expenditure, causes labor shortages, and leads to environmental pollution. And all of these negative externalities affect the government, taxpayer, economy, and environment, and finally, non-smokers. And then now Zhenlong is gonna further elaborate on all the externalities.
Thank you, Yazan. Now I'll be going about healthcare expenditure due to smoking. The first thing is smoking increases health concerns due to the increased frequency of health issues such as lung cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Furthermore, these health issues will increase the cost borne by the public healthcare industry. As first of all, public healthcare is being heavily subsidized by government funding. And this will also increase the burden upon taxpayers, as more tax revenue has to be collected to fund this public healthcare system. And lastly, most of the burden primarily falls towards non-smokers and also other stakeholders that had no relation to smoking, but in the end also have to suffer the consequences. Secondly, smoking also causes labor shortages, as smoking creates illnesses, as I previously mentioned, like heart attacks, strokes, and even early deaths. It can create disabilities, and as workers become more unhealthy and compromised, they cannot work or they must work shorter hours, and this creates a shortage of labor, as the amount of labor that's available to the market is decreased, and also imposes an additional cost on employers, such workers, and the broader economy, as with a lack of labor, wage rates will increase due to shortages, and this will ultimately reflect in higher prices for the goods that consumers have to buy. Next, I will pass on to Theo.
So how does smoking lead to environmental pollution? When smokers consume cigarettes, they usually discard the cigarette butts onto the ground. And so, because of that, smoking creates littering. And also, if those cigarette butts where they discard reaches water, the cigarette butts can actually infect water by leaching heavy metals and microplastics into the water supply, which harm marine life. And not only that, if the cigarette butts they discard are still lit, if near grass, they could potentially even cause a fire. So how do we stop smoking? The effort of stopping smoking can be done by both the government and community initiatives. Excise taxes could be enforced by the government. However, banning public smoking and awareness campaigns could be a mix of effort between both the government and the community. This is because the community can fill in gaps that the government cannot, such as culture, such as enforcement, and such as information sharing. I'll pass on to Yufong to elaborate.
Thank you, Theo. Now I'm going to start with definition of excise tax. Excise tax is an indirect tax levied on specific goods, services, or activities, typically at the point of manufacture, import, or sale for domestic consumption. Unlike general sales tax, which applies broadly on most sales, while excise tax focuses on more narrow range on product that considered as harmful to health, the environment, and also associated with high social cost. Excising tax also allows private costs to reflect total cost, where excise tax equals to estimated external cost per cigarette pack, while new private cost equals to original private cost plus tax equals to marginal social cost. At this point, the higher cost also deter smoking initiation. Now, next. Smoking can be reduced by banning public smoking. The government plays an important role in ban public smoking on public area to reduce the exposure of cigarette smokes. Eliminating smoking in public area helps lower secondhand smoke exposure for non-smokers and removes the sin that trigger craving for smokers. Moreover, the communities can also create smoke-free community zone by themselves. Smoke-free rules prompt smokers to smoke less or quit entirely to avoid the inconvenience or health risk of smoking outside. And that's all from me. I will pass it to Victor.
Thank you, Yufeng. Now, I will talk about how organized an awareness campaign can reduce the consumption of cigarette. First of all, organize an awareness campaign can correct the misunderstanding of smoking risk among the citizens. We believe that the influence of awareness campaign can shift the social norm away from smoking. This is because the awareness campaign show a true addiction cost of smoking to all the citizens. For example, the high healthcare costs that resulting from smoking addiction. In conclusion, the negative externality of smoking will affect a lot of third parties. The third party include consumer, non-smoker, taxpayer, and social circle of smoker. Therefore, we found that government and community need to take action to reflect the external cost into the internal cost to reduce the consumption of cigarette. To illustrate, government can impose a reasonable tax on both cigarette and e-cigarette usage to reduce the consumption of cigarette and prevent the switch to e-cigarette. So, that's all from us. Thank you.